You are standing in a grocery store. The lights are buzzing overhead. You pick up a can of beans, toss it in your cart, and move on. You do not think about hunger. Not really. Not the way a man named John Colter once thought about it, running barefoot across a field of prickly pear cactus, naked, with a group of Blackfoot warriors trying to kill him. That kind of hunger. The kind that turns a man into something the modern world forgot was possible. The mountain men rewrote the rules of survival, not because they were superheroes, not because they had better genes or better luck. They did it because the wilderness stripped away every comfortable lie civilization had built around them, and what was left underneath turned out to be something remarkable. Your body was built for this. You just have not needed it in a very long time. The era of the American mountain man ran roughly from 1810 to 1840, a blink in human history. But in those 30 years, a small number of men walked into the most remote and uncharted terrain on the continent and came out the other side having done things that still seem impossible. They trapped beaver in rivers that had never seen a European face. They navigated mountain ranges the size of small countries with nothing but a compass and the sky. They ate things that would make a modern person gag and called it a good day. Who were these men? They were not soldiers. They were not explorers in the formal sense. They were ordinary people who decided, for reasons that varied from adventure to desperation, to step outside the boundary of the known world. Jedediah Smith was 22 years old when he headed west. He was quiet. He carried a Bible. He was also the first American to cross the Sierra Nevada and the Mojave Desert on foot, a feat so grueling that many of his companions died trying. In 1823, a grizzly bear grabbed him by the head and nearly tore his scalp off. Smith calmly instructed a companion to sew it back on. He was back on his horse within 10 days. Not because he was numb to pain, because he had learned something the modern world forgot, that the body, when it has no choice, does not stop. Your nervous system has a setting you have never activated. It lives somewhere between the panic response and the survival instinct, and it only turns on when the situation is truly, inescapably real. The mountain men found it by accident. They found it because the mountains left them no other option. Hugh Glass found it at the bottom of a ravine in 1823. A grizzly bear mauled him so badly that his companions left him for dead. They took his rifle, his knife, his flint. They believed, reasonably, that no man could survive those wounds in that wilderness. Glass had a torn throat, a shredded back, and broken ribs. He was hundreds of miles from the nearest settlement. He woke up alone, and then he crawled. He crawled for miles. He cauterized his own wounds by laying his back against a rotting log so the maggots would clean the flesh. He ate roots and berries he found within arm's reach. He floated down the Missouri River on a makeshift raft. He survived. He made it to Fort Kiowa. He found the men who left him. What he did next is a story for another day. But the fact that he survived at all tells you something extraordinary about what the human body can do when the alternative is death. You are descended from survivors, not metaphorically, literally. Every single person in your family line, going back 10,000 generations, lived long enough to have children. Not one of them died before they reproduced. Not one. That is the lineage you carry. The mountain men did not have abilities you lack. They had circumstances that forced those abilities to the surface. Here is the thing about survival that the modern world misunderstands. It is not primarily physical. The body can take enormous amounts of punishment. It is mental. It is the refusal to accept that this is the end. Jim Bridger understood this before he could articulate it. Bridger spent nearly 50 years in the wilderness, longer than almost any other mountain man on record. He was illiterate. He never learned to read a word. But he carried a map of the American West inside his head so precise that military cartographers would later compare his verbal descriptions to actual satellite surveys and find them startlingly accurate. He had memorized thousands of miles of rivers, passes, valleys, and campsites through nothing but attention. Not education, attention. The kind of total, unbroken focus that modern life makes almost impossible to sustain. Your attention is fractured. You know this. You feel it as a vague dissatisfaction, a sense that you are always somewhere between fully present and fully elsewhere. The mountain men had no such luxury. Out there, inattention was death. A fire not fully extinguished, a horse not properly hobbled, a sound in the dark ignored. These were not inconveniences, they were endings. But here is the counterintuitive part. The men who survived the longest were not the most aggressive. They were not the most reckless. They were the most adaptive. They learned from the land. They learned from the indigenous peoples who had been navigating that wilderness for thousands of years before them. The best mountain men were the ones humble enough to understand that they knew almost nothing when they arrived. Jim Beckworth spent years living with the Crow Nation, marrying into the tribe, learning their language, adopting their methods of reading weather and tracking game. He was not pretending, he was a student. He came out of those years with a body of wilderness knowledge that no textbook could have given him. Knowledge earned through cold nights and wrong turns, and the kind of repetition that only real consequence can create. Think about what you know, really know. Not what you have read or watched or scrolled past on a screen. What you know in your hands and your feet and your gut. The mountain men knew the wilderness the way a musician knows an instrument after 10,000 hours of playing. They knew it the way you know how to drive a car without thinking, except every wrong note could kill you. Jedediah Smith once led a party of 18 men across the Mojave Desert in summer. They ran out of water. Men began to lose their minds. Smith rationed what little he had left, kept moving, kept the group together through force of calm. Not force of personality, force of calm. He had seen enough bad situations to know that panic was the most dangerous thing in the desert. More dangerous than thirst, more dangerous than heat. He kept his voice level. He kept moving. He got 11 of his men out alive. 11 out of 18 is not a failure. In those conditions, 11 out of 18 is a miracle. Your brain is wired to catastrophize. This is not a bug. It is a feature that kept your ancestors alive in genuinely dangerous environments. But the modern world has given you a brain calibrated for a world that no longer exists. A brain scanning for predators in a landscape full of traffic jams and email notifications. The mountain men were men whose environment matched their nervous system. For the first time in human history, yours does not. And something about that mismatch is what makes the mountain man story feel so compelling. Even today, you are drawn to it not as entertainment, but as a memory. Something in you recognizes it. The life of a mountain man was brutal, lonely, and short. The average trapper died before 40. Injury, disease, weather, wildlife, and violence took them one by one until the era itself collapsed under the weight of its own unsustainability. By 1840, the beaver populations were nearly gone. The market had shifted, and the wilderness they had known began to close. Many of them did not know what to do with themselves after that. The mountains had been the only world that made sense. But what they left behind was not just a chapter in American history. It was proof. Proof of what happens when a human being is stripped of convenience and comfort and forced to live entirely by their own intelligence, endurance, and will. Most of them rose to it. Most of them found something in themselves they never would have discovered any other way. You will not be chased barefoot across a cactus field tonight. You will not need to sew your scalp back on. You will not have to crawl 100 miles through a South Dakota winter with your ribs cracked and your throat torn open. But the body that could do those things, it is yours. The wiring is still there. The capacity for total attention, for calm in crisis, for adaptation, for endurance beyond what seems reasonable. None of that was removed when civilization arrived. It was just covered over. John Colter survived his barefoot run across the cactus field. He outran dozens of warriors. He hid in a beaver dam for hours in freezing water, breathing through a crack in the wood. He emerged at nightfall, walked 7 days through the wilderness, and made it back to the fort. He told the story so many times that people assumed he was lying. No one believed a man could do that. He had done exactly what you are still capable of doing. You just have not needed to yet.